With her wings shattered, the albino dragoness bowed before the human who saved her child. The first time Kale saw the dragoness, she was not soaring through skies of fire or unleashing storms of plasma breath, as the old spacer legends always described. No, he saw her crawling and bleeding, dragging her pale-scale body across the black volcanic earth of the dead moon called Res. Her wings, once great veils of light, hung broken, bones splintered and piercing through thin membranes. Behind her, nestled in the cracked basalt, a hatchling whimpered, a small creature of white scales, thin as a feather, glowing faintly in the dim starlight. And Kale knew then that his life had ended and begun in the same instant. Beginning. Kale Vare was a scavenger, a man who had drifted too far from civilization. Once, he had been an officer in the Orion fleet, trained to fight pirates on the outer colonies. But he deserted. The bloodshed, the endless wars between corporations and alien clans, it hollowed him. For years, he wandered in a patch freighter named the Solace, selling salvage tech, bartering fuel, and avoiding human company. Res, the moon of ashes, was supposed to be empty. No settlements, no trade, just black volcanic wastelands and storm-choked skies. Kale landed there only because the Solace had burned the coolant line and was leaking fuel. But when he stepped out, scanning for mineral veins to patch his systems, he saw the pale shimmer in the distance, a dying dragoness. Dragons were not myths. The galaxy knew them by many names. Drakri, Shardwings, children of stellar fire. They were older than mankind's expansion, ancient creatures that nested in gas giants and nebulae, who could fold their bodies into slipstreams of light. Most humans only ever saw their trails, those long arcs of glowing dust across night skies. Encounters with living dragons were rare and deadly. Kale should have walked away. Every story told the same warning. Approach a dragoness and you invite your death. But the sound that reached his ears was not a roar. It was a child's cry. Hi! Thin, afraid. He climbed down into the ash canyon and saw her. The dragoness lifted her head, her eyes pools of silver fire. She hissed weakly, curling her body around the hatchling. Kale froze, torn between fear and instinct. Then the hatchling stumbled from its mother's embrace and collapsed in front of him, barely breathing. His human heart betrayed him. He scooped the small dragon into his arms. Its body was fever-hot, trembling with pain. The albino dragoness bared her fangs, a hiss of warning. But when she saw Kale's trembling hands shield her child, she did not strike. Instead, her body sagged, collapsing fully onto stones. Her wing bones cracked against the basalt. Kale realized then she was too broken to kill him even if she wanted to. Kale carried the hatchling to his ship. Its scales shed faint bioluminescent dust, and its tiny lungs struggled against air too thin for its kind. He placed it in the Solace's med bay, sealed the chamber, and adjusted the oxygen mix. For 2 days, he tended to it, fed it slivers of protein gel, stabilized its breathing, cleaned wounds on its legs. And though his rational mind screamed you're a fool, his heart reminded him of the children he once saw dying on battlefields. Innocence always paid the cost of the galaxy's wars. On the 3rd day, he returned the canyon. The dragoness was still alive, barely. Her wings were shattered beyond natural healing. She had dragged herself closer to the canyon wall, trying to hide. When Kale approached, she lifted her head, eyes glowing faintly. This time, she spoke, not with words, but with the raw surge of telepathy that every legend described. You, human, where's my child? Kale nearly collapsed from the force of the thought. He gritted his teeth and forced a reply. Alive, on my ship, safe. The dragoness exhaled a rattling breath, as if centuries of fire were caught in her chest. Why? Why say what you should fear? Kale didn't know how to answer. At last he said softly, because no child deserves to die alone. A silence stretched between them, filled only by the wind of rest. Finally, the dragoness lowered her head to the ash. Then protect him, until I can rise again. But Kale knew she would never rise again. Her wings were shattered, her ribs cracked, her body poisoned by radiation burns from the storms that swept Rest. Still, she fought to cling to life, for her child. Over the following weeks, Kale split his time between the mother and the hatchling. He brought water, nutrient paste, scraps of fuel cells to burn warmth. The dragoness, too proud to eat from his hands, still accepted what he left behind. Slowly, she began to trust him. Her name, she told him in broken thought words, was Aralis. Her child was named Sarah. They were the last of their kind in this quadrant, hunted by the Consortium, the human megacorp that sought to harvest dragon hearts for energy. Kale felt rage twist in his chest. He had once served under Consortium banners, unknowingly fighting to weaken alien defenses for their expansion. He wondered how many Aralis had died because of men like him. One night, As the moon's arrest burned like dying embers overhead, Euryalus asked him, "Why do you wander alone, human?" Kale hesitated, then confessed. He told of the children on the war fronts, of the corpses he left behind, of the silence in his soul. When he finished, the dragoness regarded him with unblinking silver eyes. "Then perhaps you are more broken than I am." Her words did not sting. They felt like truth. The hunters arrive. Peace never lasts. The consortium tracked his ship's distress call. A frigate descended through the storm clouds, weapons glowing red. Kale saw it before Euryalus did. The insignia on its hull, the Eagle of Orion Fleet, his old comrades. The frigate unleashed drones into the ash canyons. Kale sprinted back to the Solace, where Sarah slept. The hatchling awoke, sensing danger, and let out a shriek of white flame that scorched the medbay walls. Kale soothed her, even as his heart pounded. When he stepped outside, drones were already circling. One fired, striking the canyon wall near Euryalus. She roared, pain lacing the sound. Her broken wings could not lift her, but her chest still held fire. She spat a column of plasma that melted 2 drones to slag. More swarmed. Kale fired his old plasma rifle, knocking one from the air. He screamed into the calms of the frigate above. "Stand down. You're hunting innocents." A cold voice answered. Admiral Thane, once Kale's superior officer. "Innocents? That beast carries more power in her veins than 1,000 reactors. Step aside, deserter, and you might yet live." Kale glanced at Sarah, trembling behind him, and at Euryalus, bleeding but unyielding. Something inside him hardened. "No," he whispered. "Climax." The battle that followed was chaos. Kale fought like a man with nothing left to lose, his plasma rifle blazing, grenades tearing drones from the sky. Sarah, sensing his desperation, shrieked and released bursts of blinding light that scrambled targeting systems. But it was Euryalus who turned the tide. With her last reserves of strength, she rose, her shattered wings dragging behind her like torn banners. She unleashed fire into the storm, striking the frigate itself. Its shields flared and buckled. Thane's voice roared through the comms. "Kill them all." Kale knew Euryalus would not survive another volley, and Sarah, too young, too fragile, would be taken, dissected, turned into fuel for consortium ships. He made his choice. He sprinted back into the Solace, rerouted the reactor, and primed the hyperdrive. A suicidal plan formed. Overload the drive, detonated in the heart of the frigate. But before he could launch, Euryalus' voice filled his mind. "Human." "No." Kale froze. "You saved my child. You gave me peace in my last days. Now let me return what I owe." Before he could protest, Euryalus surged forward, her body glowing brighter than any sun. Her silver eyes locked on him one last time. Protect Sarah. Raise her not as a weapon, but as a daughter. And then she leapt. Her broken wings stretched wide, glowing, burning, becoming more than flesh. She transformed into living fire, colliding with the frigate above. The explosion turned the storm sky into a new dawn. When the light faded, only silence remained. The frigate was gone. Euryalus was gone. Only Kale and Sarah remained, their bodies trembling, hearts shattered. Ending. Kale buried fragments of Euryalus' bones in the canyon of rest, marking the grave with stones. Sarah lay beside him, keening softly, pressing her small head against his chest. From that day forward, Kale ceased being a wanderer. He became something else. A guardian. A father. He raised Sarah aboard the Solace. As years passed, the hatchling grew. Her wings stretched across the sky. Her silver eyes reflected starlight. Her voice whispered in his mind with affection. She was playful, curious, stubborn, yet always carrying the fire of her mother. Together, they drifted through the stars, hiding from consortium hunters, surviving on wits and love. And though Kale's hair turned gray and his body grew weaker, Sarah remained by his side, fierce and radiant. On nights when he gazed out into the stars, he sometimes felt Euryalus' presence, watching, approving. And he remembered the moment when the Albino Dragoness, her wings shattered, bowed before him not in weakness, but in trust. It was the moment he stopped being broken. It was the moment he found family.